So I think we're seeing climate change really elevated now to the level of global strategic competition. This is a topic that is, no longer a sideshow. This is, top priority for all governments in bilateral conversations, in multilateral conversations. And so I think it's not surprising that we're increasingly talking about climate change as sort of one of the forces that might realign great power competition around the world, and the way that leading powers, whether it's China, the United States, and others, sort of see themselves, or kind of end up dominating, whether it's the global technology development, or have broader geopolitical effects, whether in terms of their how they are best positioned to deal with climate change. I think China and the United States is always a really interesting relationship in the realm of climate change. Both China and the United States have many decades of cooperation in the area of climate change. But of course, as that relationship is becoming more strained at the bilateral level in terms of a variety of economic and security issues where the countries are not aligned, I think it makes it more difficult to have constructive cooperation on climate change. But that's not something that we can just stop. I think it's really important that we understand how economic and political factors drive each country's global positioning here. And I think the fact that China has essentially pushed ahead of the United States in many aspects of the global clean tech race does put the United States on notice, and is helping to mobilize in a domestic response in the United States in terms of a new push for innovation and research and development and infrastructure, which is often couched as sort of indirect response to competing with China. So I think it's going to be really interesting to see how the U.S.-China relationship continues to evolve. I think we need to be very careful about how we think about decoupling from China, because that will have a direct effect on global supply chains, particularly in low carbon energy technologies that much of the world is going to rely on for the low carbon transition. But I think there are ways we can do this that are smart, and that continues to allow for strategic scientific engagement between the United States and China, but also allows for the United States reasserting its own interest in these technologies. And a lot of this is going to come from domestic innovation in the U.S. and a resurgence in R&D. And hopefully, you'll see the United States put much higher priority in clean energy technology innovation than they have in the past few years.